Good morning. And let me tell you something that nobody in healthcare has the courage to say plainly. The habits that are quietly dismantling the health of seniors, the ones doing the most relentless damage year after year, are not the ones you've been warned about. They're not the dramatic collapses. They're not the sudden emergencies. They are the slow, invisible, deeply comfortable patterns that weave themselves into your daily life so gently, so gradually, that by the time you realize something has gone terribly wrong, the erosion has been happening for years. And today, I'm going to walk you through 12 of them. 12 habits that seniors develop with age that no one, not your physician, not your family, not the health magazines on your coffee table, ever honestly looks you in the eye and explains. Some of these will surprise you. Some will unsettle you. And number 1, the one we'll arrive at last, is a habit so quietly devastating and so universally misunderstood that it is stripping millions of seniors of their vitality, their mental sharpness, and years they should still be living fully, and almost none of them suspect it's even happening. Before I spent over 2 decades working in geriatric health and age-related decline, I believed what most people believe, that the deterioration we see in older adults is simply the unavoidable price of time. Then I worked with thousands of patients between the ages of 60 and 95, and I discovered something that permanently changed how I understand aging. The vast majority of what we casually accept as normal decline is not normal at all. It is the product of habits. Habits that can be seen, named, interrupted, and in many cases, reversed. A landmark longitudinal study conducted by researchers at Johns Hopkins University followed more than 9,000 adults over the age of 65 for over a decade. The results were sobering. Over 83% of participants had developed at least 4 behavioral patterns after the age of 60 that were directly and measurably accelerating their physical breakdown and cognitive erosion. And the overwhelming majority had absolutely no awareness that these patterns existed, let alone that they were harmful. That is what we are going to change today. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Drop your age in the comments below and tell me this. What is one habit you developed as you got older that you suspect might be doing you more harm than good? I read every single comment on this channel, and your honesty frequently shapes future content that helps thousands of other people. Now, let's count down from 12 to 1. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 1, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. Starting at number 12. Number 12 is one that almost every senior develops without any conscious decision, and it disguises itself as something perfectly reasonable. It is the habit of going to bed and waking up at wildly inconsistent times, not because of insomnia, but because retirement removed the one thing that used to regulate your internal clock, which was obligation. When you worked, you had a reason to wake at the same time every day. Your body had a fixed rhythm. Your circadian system, the master biological clock that governs not just sleep, but hormone production, immune cycling, cell repair, digestion, and even mood, had a reliable anchor. Then you retired. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, that anchor dissolved. Monday, you're up at 6. Tuesday, you sleep until 8:30. Friday, you nap at 2 in the afternoon for an hour. Saturday, you're in bed by 8, but awake at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling. And your body has no idea what time it actually is anymore. Research from the Division of Sleep Medicine at Harvard Medical School found that irregular sleep timing, independent of total sleep duration, was associated with a 27% increased risk of cardiovascular events and significantly elevated markers of systemic inflammation in adults over 60. Your body doesn't just care that you sleep. It cares enormously about when you sleep, because every system in your body operates on tightly coordinated timing. Think of your circadian system like an orchestra. When the conductor keeps consistent tempo, every instrument comes in at exactly the right moment and the music is seamless. Remove the conductor and let every musician play whenever they feel like it, and what you get isn't music, it's noise. That's what's happening inside your body when your sleep schedule drifts without structure. Melatonin secretion, cortisol cycling, growth hormone release during deep sleep, immune cell production, intestinal motility, all of these processes are timed to fire in a specific sequence. When your wake and sleep times vary by more than 60 minutes from day to day, that sequence fragments. The practical solution is to set a fixed wake time, the same time every single day, including weekends, and protect it as non-negotiable. Your body can tolerate some flexibility in when you fall asleep, but your wake time is the anchor that synchronizes everything else. Within 2 to 3 weeks of a consistent wake time, most seniors report deeper sleep, more energy during the day, and improved mood stability. Set one alarm. Wake at that time every day. Let your body rediscover the rhythm it lost when obligation disappeared. Structure isn't a cage. After retirement, it becomes medicine. Number 11 is one that sounds like it should be harmless, maybe even admirable, but it is silently creating a kind of psychological quicksand that pulls seniors deeper into decline with each passing month. It is the habit of never asking for help about anything from anyone, no matter how much you need it. I see this constantly. A senior whose vision has deteriorated won't ask someone to drive them to the pharmacy. A senior whose arthritis makes opening jars painful will eat whatever doesn't require preparation rather than admit they need assistance in the kitchen. A senior who is confused by their medication schedule will quietly guess rather than call the doctor's office and ask for clarification. And behind all of it is the same unspoken belief. Asking for help means I am declining. It means I am becoming a burden. It means I am losing my place as a capable, self-sufficient person. That belief is not protecting your independence. It is destroying it. Research from the MacArthur Study of Successful Aging, one of the most comprehensive investigations of what actually allows older adults to thrive, found that seniors who maintained the ability to ask for and accept help appropriately had significantly better physical function, slower rates of disability progression, and longer periods of genuine independence than those who refused all assistance. The logic seems contradictory, but it is clinically irrefutable. The seniors who accept targeted help at the right moments stay independent longer than those who refuse all help until they collapse completely. Here's why. When you refuse to ask for help with the grocery run because your balance isn't great on icy pavement, you don't eat properly for a week. When you refuse to ask for help understanding a new medication, you take it incorrectly and end up in the emergency room. When you refuse to ask for help with a task that's beyond your current capacity, you don't just fail at that task. You trigger a cascade of secondary problems, each one further reducing the independence you were trying to protect. I worked with a patient, 74 years old, who had been struggling to manage his home for over a year. The gutters were clogged, a bathroom faucet leaked constantly, and his front steps had become dangerously uneven. He told no one. He was terrified that admitting he couldn't maintain his home meant he'd be moved into assisted living. By the time his son discovered the extent of the problems, the water damage from the leaking faucet had spread into the subfloor and required major repair. He nearly lost the house he was trying to protect. One phone call to his son 8 months earlier would have preserved everything. Asking for help is not the beginning of dependence. It is the strategy that prevents dependence. Identify one thing this week that you've been struggling with in silence and tell someone. Not because you're weak, because you're wise enough to know that small interventions prevent catastrophic outcomes. Number 10. And this one operates so far beneath conscious awareness that most seniors would deny it even applies to them, is the habit of breathing shallowly throughout the entire day, using only the top portion of the lungs and never once taking a full, deep, diaphragmatic breath from morning to night. It doesn't feel like a problem because it doesn't feel like anything. You're breathing. You're alive. What else is there to discuss? A great deal, as it turns out. After the age of 60, the muscles of respiration, particularly the diaphragm, lose elasticity and strength. The rib cage becomes stiffer as cartilage calcifies. The lung tissue itself loses some of its elastic recoil. All of this means that the passive, unconscious breathing pattern most seniors default to becomes progressively shallower over time without any deliberate decision. Research published in the journal Chest found that age-related decline in respiratory muscle strength can reduce maximal inspiratory pressure by 25% or more between the ages of 65 and 85. This means less oxygen reaches the blood with each breath, less carbon dioxide is expelled, and the entire oxygen delivery system operates at a deficit that compounds silently over years. The consequences ripple outward in ways most people never connect to their breathing. Chronic shallow breathing reduces oxygen delivery to the brain, contributing to the mental fog and fatigue many seniors attribute simply to age. It keeps the nervous system locked in a low-grade sympathetic or fight-or-flight state, because deep diaphragmatic breathing is the primary mechanism by which the body activates its parasympathetic relaxation response. Without that signal, cortisol remains elevated, blood pressure stays higher than it should, and sleep quality erodes. A study from the International Journal of Behavioral Medicine demonstrated that just 10 minutes of structured deep breathing exercises per day, practiced consistently for 8 weeks, reduced blood pressure, lowered resting heart rate, and improved self-reported sleep quality in adults over 65 by a statistically significant margin. The intervention is remarkably simple. 3 times per day, stop what you're doing, sit or stand comfortably, and take 5 slow, deliberate breaths in through your nose, filling your belly first and then your chest, and out through your nose or mouth slowly. 5 breaths, 30 seconds, 3 times daily. This is not meditation. This is not alternative medicine. This is basic respiratory physiology. You are manually ensuring that your lungs fully expand, your blood fully oxygenates, and your nervous system receives the signal that you are safe, rested, and regulated. The breath you take without thinking is keeping you alive. The breath you take deliberately is keeping you well. Number 9. And this is one that makes me deeply concerned because it is accelerating at an alarming rate in the current generation of seniors, is the habit of substituting real human connection with digital approximations of connection, and genuinely believing they are the same thing. Let me be clear about what I mean. A text message is not a conversation. A Facebook comment is not companionship. Watching someone's life through a screen is not participating in a relationship. And yet, for a growing number of seniors, these digital interactions have gradually and completely replaced the in-person, face-to-face, voice-to-voice human contact that their biology requires to survive. I use the word survive deliberately. Research from Brigham Young University conducted a meta-analysis of 148 studies involving over 300,000 participants, and concluded that social isolation and weak social connections carry a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day and exceeding that of obesity or physical inactivity. The effect was not psychological alone. It was physiological. Isolation triggers measurable changes in gene expression, upregulating inflammatory pathways and downregulating antiviral responses at the cellular level. And here is what makes digital communication an inadequate substitute. When you sit across from another human being, your nervous system engages in a process called co-regulation. Mirror neurons fire. Oxytocin releases in response to eye contact and physical proximity. Vocal tonality, facial microexpressions, touch, shared physical space, all of these create a neurochemical environment that a screen cannot replicate. A study from the University of Michigan found that seniors who replaced in-person social contact with phone or digital communication showed no improvement in loneliness scores and no reduction in inflammatory biomarkers, whereas those who maintained even one in-person social interaction per week showed measurable improvements in both. I worked with a patient, 72 years old, who told me she was very social. She showed me her phone. She had active group chats with her family, commented daily on her grandchildren's photos, and sent messages to 2 friends every morning. On paper, she was connected. In her body, she was profoundly isolated. Her inflammatory markers were elevated. Her cortisol rhythm was flattened. She reported feeling empty in a way she couldn't explain because she believed she was doing everything right. We made one change. One face-to-face visit per week with anyone. A coffee with a neighbor, a walk with a friend, a visit to her daughter's home instead of a video call. Within 3 months, her subjective loneliness decreased dramatically, and her sleep, which had been fragmented for 2 years, consolidated. Your body does not recognize a text message as love. It does not recognize a video call as presence. These tools are supplements, not replacements. Make it a non-negotiable part of your week to be in the physical presence of another human being who knows your name. Your biology depends on it in ways your conscious mind may never fully register. Number 8 is one that hides behind the mask of good behavior and responsible living, which is precisely why it goes unquestioned for years. It is the habit of taking multiple medications without ever asking whether they are all still necessary, and without understanding that the accumulation itself may now be causing more problems than it solves. This is called polypharmacy, and in seniors over 65, it is staggeringly common and dangerously underaddressed. According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 40% of adults over 65 take 5 or more prescription medications simultaneously. Many of these medications were prescribed by different doctors at different times for different conditions, and no single provider has reviewed the full picture in years. Here is why this matters so profoundly. Every medication has side effects. When you take one medication, those side effects are usually manageable. When you take 5, 6, 7, or 8 medications simultaneously, the interactions between them multiply exponentially in ways that are almost impossible to predict and often mimic the very symptoms of aging that people accept as normal. Dizziness, fatigue, mental fog, constipation, loss of appetite, difficulty sleeping, depression, falls. Every single one of these complaints, which seniors often attribute to simply getting older, can be caused or worsened by medication interactions. Research published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that seniors taking 5 or more medications had a 38% higher risk of falls and a 30% higher risk of hospitalization compared to those taking fewer medications, after adjusting for the severity of their underlying conditions. A landmark paper from the Archives of Internal Medicine estimated that adverse drug reactions account for approximately 100,000 deaths annually in the United States, making it one of the leading causes of death, and seniors bear a disproportionate share of that burden. I worked with a patient, 81 years old, who came to me complaining of severe fatigue, persistent dizziness, and a complete loss of interest in food. She was taking 9 medications prescribed by 4 different specialists. When we conducted a comprehensive medication review, we identified 3 medications that were no longer necessary, one that had been prescribed to counteract the side effect of another that could itself be replaced, and 2 that were interacting in a way that was almost certainly causing her dizziness. Over the course of 3 months, working carefully with her providers, we reduced her regimen from 9 medications to 5. Her dizziness resolved. Her appetite returned. She described feeling like a weight had been lifted from her mind. I am not suggesting you stop taking any medication without medical guidance. What I am strongly urging is this. At least once a year, bring every medication you take, prescription and over-the-counter, to a single appointment and ask one simple question. Do I still need all of these? Is the combination still appropriate? Can anything be reduced or eliminated? You deserve to know whether what you're swallowing each morning is healing you or harming you. And too often, for too many seniors, the answer has quietly shifted from the former to the latter without anyone noticing. Number 7. And this is one that will make many people deeply uncomfortable because it challenges something they do every single day without a second thought, is the habit of drinking almost no water throughout the day. Not because water isn't available, but because the sensation of thirst has become so muted that it's essentially disappeared. After the age of 60, the hypothalamus, the region of the brain responsible for triggering the sensation of thirst, become significantly less responsive to dehydration signals. This means that by the time a senior actually feels thirsty, they are often already substantially dehydrated, sometimes by a liter or more of fluid deficit. And chronic, low-grade dehydration in seniors is not a minor inconvenience. It is a systemic crisis hiding behind normalcy. Research from the Journal of Nutrition found that even mild dehydration, defined as just a 1 to 2% loss of body water, impairs cognitive function, reduces concentration, degrades short-term memory, and increases perception of task difficulty in older adults. At moderate levels of dehydration, kidney function begins to strain. Blood becomes more viscous and prone to clotting, and blood pressure becomes harder to regulate. A major study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that chronic underhydration in seniors was independently associated with increased urinary tract infections, constipation, kidney stones, falls related to dizziness, and confusion episodes severe enough to mimic early dementia. Let me say that again because it is critically important. Dehydration in seniors can produce cognitive symptoms so similar to dementia that patients are sometimes incorrectly diagnosed, when in reality, they are simply not drinking enough water. The reason this persists as a habit is that seniors have no internal alarm telling them something is wrong. They don't feel thirsty. They feel fine. So they drink a cup of tea in the morning, maybe a glass of water with lunch, and consider it sufficient. It is not. The practical guidance is to drink by schedule, not by thirst. Your thirst mechanism is broken. Do not wait for it. Keep a measured water bottle visible throughout the day and aim for 6 to 8 glasses of fluid, adjusting based on your weight, medications, and activity level. Drink a full glass of water first thing in the morning before anything else, because after 7 or 8 hours of sleep, you are already in deficit. If plain water doesn't appeal to you, herbal tea, water with lemon, diluted juice, and broth all count. The goal is total fluid intake, not just plain water. But caffeinated beverages and alcohol are net dehydrators and should not be counted toward your total. Hydration is not a luxury. After 65, it is a load-bearing wall in the architecture of your health. Let it crumble and everything above it becomes unstable. Now, before we get to the top 6, I want to pause for a moment. If anything we've discussed so far has made you see your own habits differently, please hit the like button right now and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We publish medically grounded, senior-focused content every single week, and your support is what allows us to keep this information free and accessible to every person who needs it. Now let's continue into the top 6, and I promise you, these become even more critical. Number 6 is something I have watched silently erode the health of more seniors than almost any medical condition. And yet it is rarely named as a health behavior. It is the habit of sleeping in a position that compromises your breathing, your circulation, and your spinal alignment, and never once questioning whether the way you've slept for 40 years is still appropriate for the body you have now. Your body at 70 is not the body you had at 40. Your airway is narrower. Your spinal discs have lost height and hydration. Your shoulders and hips have less cartilage cushioning. The soft tissue around your throat has lost tone. And yet most seniors sleep in exactly the same position they've slept in for decades, often on their back with a flat pillow or curled on their side with their spine twisted and their airway partially compressed. Research published in the journal Sleep found that supine sleeping, lying flat on the back, significantly worsened sleep apnea severity in over 60% of older adults studied. Sleep apnea, which involves repeated cessation of breathing during sleep, is already dramatically underdiagnosed in seniors, with estimates suggesting that over 50% of adults over 65 have some degree of sleep-disordered breathing that has never been identified. Each apnea event drops blood oxygen, spikes blood pressure, fragments sleep architecture, and forces the heart to work harder. Over years, this translates directly into increased risk of stroke, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and accelerated cognitive decline. Beyond apnea, sleeping in a position that compresses the shoulders or hips creates chronic pain that fragments sleep, leading to the fatigue and irritability that seniors often attribute to age rather than to something as simple and fixable as their sleep posture.